Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of the Touhou vlog. Well, it was more than just a Touhou vlog, it was a super long vlog with a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm holding the camera now because I got the thing out of my room, because it's 3 days later, because my memory card ran out of space and my camera stopped recording and I need to re-record this, and I tried re-recording it, but I wasn't happy with what I was saying. So anyway, let me show you my board. Let me show you my keychains. You can get a good look at all of them. I guess I can say a few things about all these. Jeez, man, don't accidentally close the camera on yourself here. So I figure I actually arranged these on the board in a very particular order, and I found this box of pins in a drawer in the living room that had a whole bunch of different colors in it, and most of them ended up corresponding. Everybody except for this one. I couldn't find a purple pin to go with Patchouli's purpleness, so I gave her a green one instead, because green and purple look really good together, but everything else matches either hair color or dress color or something, I don't know, but it's like... Anyway, it took me a while to even arrange these on the board, because I was like, oh, I don't know, it's just weird. I was just being a weirdo here, but anyway, these are the three kind of like miscellaneous ones up here. This was actually the first one I bought. This is Nazarin, who is the Stage 1 boss from Touhou 12. She's also the Stage 5 mid-boss, and she's really good at fucking kicking my ass in Stage 5 because she has one of the hardest attacks in the game. She also has really, really great music, and future Edward, start playing Nazarin's music because it's really good and you should hear it. So yeah, there's her, and unfortunately she's kind of all by herself in terms of like character relations and whatnot, because there's no Byakuren to go with her, or no Sho, or Ichirin, or any of the other UFO characters. Same thing with Suiko here, who is the other one of these that I bought at Youmacon. Basically what had happened was, I spent $15 on Nazarin, and it's like, yeah, that was $15 for a keychain, but it's like, you know, being a fan of anime itself is really expensive already, but being a fan of Touhou is even worse, because it's like, if you live in the United States, there's nothing for you to get, so you have to import everything. So if I were to get these online, it's like, the seller would be marking up the price already, and then you'd have to pay like importation costs, and then you'd have to pay shipping fees on top of that, so it's actually not that bad of a deal, I think. But what had happened was, I bought her on Saturday, and then the next day I went back to buy a t-shirt. I withdrew another $15, because that's how much the t-shirts cost. And it turns out they sold out of the t-shirts, so I was like, well, shit, I'll just go and get another keychain. So I got Suiko, because so happy, like, oh my god, that's all I can say about that. She's the extra stage boss of Touhou 10, Mountain of Faith. I don't really mess around with the extra stages too much, because they're more memorization than skill, and Suiko in particular is kind of terrible about having to like memorize her patterns and stuff like that, and the stage leading up to her is really long, so if you fuck up her attacks, you gotta go through a really long stage to get to her again, and it's like, I'll do other stuff with Mountain of Faith or other things. She's also got a really bitchin' hat with the two eyeballs, which is, and then, okay, so over here, this is the first of the 10 keychains that came in the package that I ordered. This is Surno, or Chiruno, who is a little ice fairy. Her name in Japanese is written with a CH at the front, or a character that translates to a CH in English, but her name is spelled C-I-R-N-O in the English version, so it's like, you know, what are you gonna do? Some of the names are kind of weird and awkward. But she's the Ice Fairy. She is a Stage 2 boss of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. And she's got really popular with the fans, basically because she's an idiot. Like, I'm not even kidding you. She's dumb, and that means that people like her. Because she doesn't think she's like one of those characters. She's so dumb, she doesn't realize how dumb she really is. Hang on a second here. I'm gonna take a drink of coffee. This is coffee from the clubhouse. It's actually pretty shitty coffee. I normally brew my coffee in my own house. I'm gonna interrupt my own vlog and my own freaking Touhou keychain experience to show you where I make coffee and what coffee I make. Hello, cat. Shut the fuck up, please. Yeah, the house is a mess. But anyway, this is the coffee. There's no lights on, but this jar is filled with coffee beans. This is the hand crank coffee grinder I use. That's the filter I use. This is what I use if I'm making more than 1 cup. That's where I boil my water. So yeah, there's no lights on, but this is the kitchen. Anyway, back to business. Let's get down to business. I don't know how the rest of that song goes, and you can see how fucking messy my room is. It's actually not that messy. It was way messier before I cleaned it up before the first part of the vlog, and you can tell the coffee's making me a little bit crazy, so I might as well finish up and drink it up the rest now. Well, anyway, so I put these two together, partly because I didn't really have anyone else to stick them with. Like, I didn't have a Kaneko or a Sanae to go with Suiko, because that's the entire Moria family, I guess you can say. But this is funny here, and I'm gonna explain why this is funny. Because Cirno is an ice fairy, and she uses her powers to freeze things. She actually has her own spin-off game called Great Fairy Wars, where she basically just goes around freezing bullets. I've never played it before, but it looks like it could be fun. But anyway, one of her favorite pastimes is freezing frogs alive, and then possibly using her powers to, like, thaw them out. But apparently, like, 1 out of every 3 frogs that she freezes, she, like, accidentally drops and they, like, shatter alive, and so basically she's a frog murderer. And in Phantasmagoria Flower View, which I just recorded my first ever commentary for that today, that'll probably be going up on Saturday, when somebody beats her, I'm pretty sure it's when Sakuya beats her, actually. We'll get down to her in a second. When she beats her, she's like, you know, if you keep freezing frogs, if you keep tormenting frogs, you might find yourself in trouble with a frog yokai one of these days. And then in the very next game, because Phantasmagoria Flower View is Touhou 9, and then Mountain of Faith is Touhou 10. Well, in Touhou 10, Suiko shows up, and she is a frog. She's a frog goddess, which is why her hat kind of looks the way it does. And all of her attacks are frog-themed, and I don't know, she's kind of cool and funny. And then, Sanae in UFO actually has a shot type based off of Suiko's, like, attack, which is, like, frogs that, like, jump across the screen. I forget exactly what it's called. Anyway, so this is, like, the bottom, the main row of the keychains. And over here we have Reimu, of course, Reimu Hakure, who is the main protagonist of the series. These are all, like, double-sided, by the way. Like, you can see front and back side, but anyway, I'm not really going to show all of that off too much. So, Reimu is really famous. Probably, even if you've never played Touhou before, you know who Reimu is. Obscura. Sorry, that was really random, and I just couldn't help myself, you know, because Obscura is a really good band. Well, anyway, Reimu, I guess the story about Reimu is, if you've ever seen Awesome Games Done Quick, which is awesome, by the way. I mean, it's right in the title. It's Awesome Games Done Quick. Well, usually in the crowd there's somebody holding a Reimu plushie, and this happens, like, I don't think it's in every single game ever, but most of the speedruns at AGDQ I've seen, somebody's holding onto a Reimu plushie, and then almost always in the chat feed, or like the donation comment feed, I guess I should say, not the chat, somebody's like, whoever's holding Reimu at the time that this is read gets to decide where the money goes, because Touhou is the best. So yeah, I don't know, Reimu's okay, I think she's alright, I like her, I don't hate her. There are some people that actually really, really hate Reimu, and it's like, I don't know, I don't get the hate for her. Well, anyway, over here we have Yuyuko, who is the stage 6 boss, which makes her the final boss. The final boss of Perfect Cherry Blossom, which is Touhou 7. And she is one of my favorite final bosses in the game, partly because she's easy. She's easy, but her fight still feels like it's not badly designed, if that makes any sense. Like other final bosses that are really easy, their fight is like really poorly designed. Like Miko's fight was awful, Kaneko's fight was not good. But Yuyuko's manages to be easy and pretty fun at the same time. But more than anything, her attacks are just fucking beautiful. Like, I'm not even kidding you. And I can't even, like, describe it with myself, but she pulls out this, like, giant big fan that's, like, really elegant looking, and there's, like, a big withered tree in the background, and everything's all purple and blue and pink, and she attacks you with, like, lots of butterflies. And the backgrounds are all my favorite colors. Yeah. Well, anyway, she also appears as a playable character in Imperishable Night, where she's part of the Ghost team with Yomu, who's right next to her. And also, she's the Stage 1 boss in Touhou 13, which is called 10 Desires. which was really surprising to me and lots of other people. My hand is really shaky because of caffeine. Caffeine! Well, anyway, well, also just because I'm holding it up at kind of a weird angle because this board's at just the wrong height. So yeah, Yuyuko is pretty cool, if you ask me. And then here you have the other ghost, who's actually a half ghost. Her name is Yomu, and the big swirly thing that's behind her is her ghost half. And she is a samurai gardener, and she lives with Yuyuko, who, by the way, is fat. Basically, she's known for eating anything, and there's a big joke in the fandom that she eats one of the other characters in Imperishable Night in her story mode. Like, she eats her alive, or I don't know, eating alive is the way to go, but that's kind of like a meme. I'm not going to take too much time to describe all the memes, so don't worry about that. Well, Yomu is the Stage 5 boss of Perfect Cherry Blossom, and she is one of my favorite bosses in the entire series to fight, because her gimmick is slowing down time. So what she'll do is she'll, like, fill the screen with a whole bunch of bullets, and then she'll slow down time, so the bullets will move more slowly, and you'll move more slowly, and you gotta, like, find a safe spot, and then the slow time expires and all the bullets like fly past you really quickly if you do it right. So she's really fun to fight. And then in later games she's a playable character too, and her playstyle is always really different. Like in 10 Desires, she uses charged melee attacks, which is like, how does that even work in a shooting game? But you'll see if I ever make 10 Desire videos. And Imperishable Night, she also has a very unorthodox shooting style where her ghost half will fire in the direction opposite of the direction that you're moving. And funnily enough, the highest possible score in Imperishable Night is actually with Yomu solo. So that's kind of an interesting little fact. And then I placed Yomu next to the other silver gray-haired, Stage 5, blade-wielding, time-manipulating boss, who is the chief maid of the Scarlet Devil Mansion, Sakuya. And she likes knives and stopping time to throw knives at you. She's pretty tricky, actually. She has one of the hardest spell cards in Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, I'd say. Her last attack is really brutal. And her knife hitboxes in that game are very weird. I used to really not like Sakuya a lot, but she's kind of come around. She's grown on me a bit. I still think that she's incredibly overrated, and I still think that all of her fans like her because she's a maid and maids are sexy. But yeah, I don't know, I don't really have a lot to say. She's also a playable character in Perfect Cherry Blossom, which is the only game where she's a useful playable character. She has 2 shot types in that game, and one of them is really good if you're a noob and you're like trying to beat the game to survive. Because when you focus her attacks, they'll like continue. Like normally when you focus attacks, the attack becomes thinner, but her attack continues to lock onto the boss to deal constant damage. So that's really useful. And her other shot type is really good for high score runs, but it's a lot harder to manipulate. And then basically after that game, she's just useless. She's terrible in Phantasmagoria Flower View. She's terrible in Imperishable Night. Well, she's terrible by herself. If you're playing as part of her team with Sakuya and Romelia, who we'll talk about in a second, she's actually, their team isn't that bad, but by herself, she's the worst character in Imperishable Night. And then she disappeared for a whole bunch of games before she returned in Double Dealing Character, which I still haven't played, but apparently she's not bad in that game. So yeah. And then you have Romelia, who is the final boss of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. She's a vampire. If you look really closely, you can actually see she's got like a little vampire tooth sticking out of her mouth there. She is a really, really hard final boss. I still think she's the hardest final boss I've fought in the entire series, barring Shaky from Phantasmagoria Flower View, which works entirely differently, so I don't count it. Byakuren from Touhou 12 comes kind of close in terms of difficulty, but Romelia's attacks are just so brutal, especially like her last 3 spell cards are just so hard. And I remember beating her was such a huge accomplishment the first time I did it on normal mode. Yeah, Romelia is actually one of my favorites, just in terms of personality and whatnot. And she's also a playable character in she's also a playable character in Imperishable Night, and I wish I kind of knew how to use her better. What happens is when you like focus with her, you lock down a familiar that'll shoot in a straight line and won't move from where you are until you unfocus, which is kind of hard to describe and awkward to describe without actually looking at it. But you have to like really know the game well to be able to use it effectively. But she's powerful if you know how to use her. And then over here you have Ramelia's sister, Flandra, or Flandre, or Flandre, or Flander, or like however you say her name, because it's so ambiguous in terms of pronunciation. The Japanese pronunciation is actually Flandoru, which is like just incredibly awkward. But then they have to go and spell her name Flandre, and it's like, are you just deliberately trying to confuse people? Well, she's the extra stage boss of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, and like I said, I don't really mess around with them too much because they're more memorization-based than skill-based. She keeps killing me in Maze of Love, which is like... I'm not going to describe what it is, but I can't see... I'm not good enough at reading the hitboxes of that game and moving in that game to avoid that attack, so I just whatever. It's funny because she's actually like kind of dangling off to the side because her hair is so asymmetrical, it's like weighing her down. It's kind of funny. But she's got like weird wings that are like freaking jeweled and rainbow colored, and it's like, I don't know. You can see her vampire tooth too if you look really closely. She also looks so happy, like, oh my god, both of the extra stage bosses are just so happy. So over here, these are the last three, and then we'll call this a vlog, call an end to this vlog. This is Patchouli Knowledge, who is the librarian of the Scarlet Devil Mansion and the stage 4 boss of that game. And she is really fun to fight. Basically, depending on who you're playing as in that game and which shot type you're using, she will use different elemental attacks against you. So she's a magician, and she uses like fire, water, wood, metal, and earth attacks, which are the 5 traditional Chinese elements. And also, the Japanese days of the week are named after those elements. So sometimes they call her the Weekly Witch, especially because she's the extra stage mid-boss in Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. And in there, she attacks you with a sun attack and a moon attack, which are the other 2 days of the Japanese week. And then she attacks you with something called the Philosopher's Stone, which basically throws all 5 elements at you at once, and it's kind of crazy, actually. But she's really fun to fight, and then she'll start, like, combining elements, too. So, like, just for example, she'll take water and metal and combine those into an attack called Mercury Poison, and it's really a fun, random fight. I like her a lot. And then she reappeared as a shot type for Marissa in Subterranean Animism, which is really unique. Basically, it gives you familiars that you can change Gradius style, and they all have like different like directions that they fire and whatnot. And it's really, really hard to master, but it really changes the game. And then over here you have Malice, Marissa, and Alice. Marissa's, of course, the other protagonist of the game, the witch, who, unlike Patchouli, who is an Eastern witch, Marissa is a Western-style witch. And Alice over here, who's one of the characters from the PC 98 series, which I don't really know anything about because I've never played them before. Oddly enough, Alice was one of the starters in Touhou, along with Sanae and Raisin, of all characters. You'd think it would be like Marissa, Alice, and Sanae, or Marissa and Reimu and Sanae, not Marissa and Alice and Sanae, because that would just be weird. Well, anyway, she, like, kind of is, like, I don't know. Marissa's, like, got this harem over here of other witches. If I had Nitori, I'd stick her right next to Marissa, too. But she's... I don't have a Nitori to go with that. Anyway, Alice's Imperishable Knights, Marissa's partner. That was a really awkward way of phrasing that. The caffeine's really getting to my brain now, I guess. So they're really fun to play as, except they're not, because Alice is really not that good in Imperishable Knight. So Marissa, though, is like, oh my god, Marissa is my gal, and I have more luck playing Touhou with her than anyone else, because my first ever clear of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil on normal with Marissa, my first PCB clear with the default number of starting lives, which is 3. Like, you can change the number of lives you start with. In most games, they max out at 5. Imperishable Knight actually maxes them out at 7, which is part of what makes that game so easy. But I had been playing with 5 lives for a while, and I beat that game with Sakia first, and then I beat the game with everybody else, and then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be a bitch anymore, I'm going to turn it back down to 3 lives. So I did that, and then Marissa was the first character that I beat that with. She was the first character I beat Phantasmagoria Flower View with on normal, and then the second character I beat it with on hard. But, like, that hard clear with Marissa was just absolutely phenomenal. It was the best I've ever played Touhou in my life. Even back when I played on easy mode, Marissa was like my good luck charm, because she was the only character that I ever cleared Subterranean Animism on easy with. I cleared that game with the Marissa Alice pair, actually. And I think I got my highest ever score run of UFO with Marissa, too, now that I think about it. Still haven't beaten UFO on normal, though, because that game is all kinds of hard. So, she's also really fun to play in 10 Desires, too. I almost like playing as her more than Reimu, because Reimu is just way too overpowered in 10 Desires, and 10 Desires is easy enough as it is. Well, anyway, that's been enough ranting for one day, so I hope to see you next time on my channel, or whatever it is I do. If you enjoyed this, if you want to see and hear more Touhou things, I will probably be making more videos. Not kind of like this stupid little vlog in the future, but talking more about this particular series, but it'll be kind of sporadic, so if you're interested in that, you should probably subscribe to my channel, which is something that I don't say very often because I think that it's incredibly annoying when people are constantly telling you to subscribe. But I'm saying it now just because, you know, I don't know when this sort of thing is going to come out on my channel. It's definitely not going to be very regular. But anyway, I hope to see you on my LPs and other future things I do on my channel, so I hope you enjoyed this. This outro is the longest outro in the history of anything. Goodbye.